23andMe, a once booming DNA testing company, has been in and out of the spotlight over the last 2 years, from a major data breach to filing for bankruptcy and now the company's sale. So what does all of this mean for its customers?
We want to bring in our chief business correspondent, Taylor Young, here. Taylor, this is a lot to cover, of course, but just starting with the most recent news that we've had as of yesterday, North Carolinians can now file a claim.
Yeah, so this stems back to a massive data breach that happened back in 2023. And while it's been a couple of years since then, I mean, this was absolutely massive. Millions of customers essentially trusted this company with their most personal genetic data, which was breached in a cybersecurity breach. So, 2 years later, as of this week, North Carolina Attorney General Jeff Jackson has announced that North Carolinians can now file a claim against the company for damages. There are some requirements. You had to have been a member of 23andMe between May and October of 2023. You had to have received a notice that your information was compromised, and if you suffered any harms from that breach, both financial and not financial. Now, this comes about 2 months after the Attorney General also warned North Carolinians to delete their 23andMe data immediately following the company filing for bankruptcy in March of last year. So yeah, a lot has happened over the last 2 years.
And that whole entire memo to delete their data, that's actually led to a lot of fears because people are worried, what's happening to my data now that this company is going defunct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, major concerns about the company would sell that data. Who would that fall into the hands of, and what exactly would they do with it? Because cybersecurity experts say there were a lot of incentives for maybe a major corporation or researchers to really get their hands on that. And again, this did prompt a wave of lawmakers and cybersecurity experts to delete their data altogether as soon as possible. And they did within just a couple of days of 23andMe announcing that bankruptcy. I mean, 1.5 million people flooded 23andMe's website, theoretically, a lot of them deleting their data. So people took this seriously.
And there's seemingly a lot of potential interested buyers here. What's the latest that we have on a possible sale?
Yeah, so just this week, 23andMe was officially sold to Regeneron Pharmaceuticals for $265 million. It is an American-based biotech company that's headquartered in New York. And as for how it's going to kind of handle all of the information it's taking on, it says it will, quote, comply with data privacy concerns. And as for what it's going to do with that data, it says it's going to use it for drug making and developing. So, yeah.
I don't know how people feel about that if your information was there. And going forward, do you think this is going to affect people trusting these DNA sites to just, okay, you have all of my DNA data?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's on top of a lot of people's mind right now. We've actually have already seen a decline in people kind of using these mail-in DNA sites. Just a survey released recently by YouGov found that majority of people who have not yet done anything on either 23andMe or the other similar sites out there, they say their number one reason for why they're not interested is because they don't trust these companies with their private DNA genetic information, which of course is probably the most private information we can have on ourselves. And I do think it is worth pointing out, though, that 1 in 5 Americans have already done this. So there are a lot of people out there right now who have already kind of handed over their information that might be concerned about what can happen. And I think that this brings us to a really important point that you really should be reading the terms and conditions before doing really anything nowadays. I mean, even 23andMe, in their terms and conditions, it did mention that the company can and is able to sell your data in certain circumstances that includes a bankruptcy or an acquisition, which is what exactly we saw this week. So it's just something to keep in mind. And as for data breaches, over the last couple of years, we've seen that happening more and more often. So just something to kind of, what are you comfortable with, essentially being out there in the hands of a major corporation?
Yeah, really weighing those possible risks and rewards. Yeah. Chief Business Correspondent Taylor Young, thank you so much.